book calls it, that 107-day limit changes everything.
Oh, absolutely. She knew instantly there was zero room for error. The sources are really explicit about how tough this was. No preparation, no long campaign plan, no second chances.
Let's unpack that. No preparation. What does it really mean in a modern presidential race?
It means no time for deep dive polling to figure out the perfect message for every voter segment, no time to carefully build out hundreds of field offices, hire and train staff on the ground.
Yeah.
And crucially, no time to properly vet and roll out new policy ideas, which usually takes months of workshopping and refining. Every single hour they spent just trying to organize was an hour they weren't out there campaigning.
Wow, it sounds less like running a campaign and more like crisis management, like running an emergency room.
That's a good analogy. And the pressure to be perfect, right from day one, knowing every single word is going to be picked apart. It must have been immense.
And the book says, despite needing to project total confidence, there was real doubt behind the scenes.
Yeah, it doesn't gloss over that.
Yeah.
It talks about immediate and pretty profound private doubt. And this wasn't just, can I win the swing states kind of doubt. It was deeper.
Deeper how? What were the big core challenges the sources say she was grappling with internally? It sounds like it went beyond just winning.
It really did. The sources frame it as these two massive simultaneous challenges. First, the purely political one. Could she actually bring together a country that was already so divided, so polarized, especially heading into what was already expected to be a nasty election?
Okay, that's huge on its own.
Right. And then second, maybe even bigger, sort of existential challenge. Could she be the one to carry the torch for democracy itself? Especially when, the very norms of American politics felt like they were under attack. So the authors position her task as not just winning an election, but defending the country's core ideals. That really elevates the stakes of those 107 days, doesn't it? It makes it more than just a campaign. It's framed as a historical crucible.
Yeah, absolutely. The sheer size of that task, plus the crazy timeline. Every single day, it must have felt like living under a microscope politically and, like you said, philosophically.
So the decision's made. Now the race is truly on. Operationally, they had to pivot instantly. The sources spent a good chunk of time on what they call the overnight assembly.
That sounds intense. Building a presidential campaign machine basically from scratch, overnight.
Yeah, Herculean task is how the book puts it. They paint this picture of a team going from, maybe some contingency planning to full-blown 247 mobilization in probably less than 48 hours.
Wow.
Strategy rooms buzzing with ideas, apparently. Fierce debates happening immediately about the absolute non-negotiables.
What were those core priorities they had to figure out, right away?
3 big things, according to the sources. First, where do we go? With only 107 days, you can't be everywhere. So mapping out that initial geographic footprint was critical.
Okay, makes sense.
Second, what's the message? The single core idea that cuts through everything else needs to be simple, powerful, unifying.
And the third?
And this one's really interesting and very 2024. Third was how to fight the growing waves of misinformation.
So dealing with online attacks and fake news was a day one priority.
Absolutely. It wasn't an afterthought. It was baked in from the start as a core logistical challenge. They knew they needed rapid response teams, not just policy wonks, up and running immediately.
That's fascinating. Did the sources say how they approached that? Was it more about pushing back in traditional media or going digital?
The analysis suggests they leaned heavily into digital first. They knew with that 107-day clock, they couldn't wait for a carefully crafted press release.
Too slow.
Way too slow. They needed small, agile teams just monitoring social media, ready to jump on falsehoods in real time. Because, lies travel fast, especially in that kind of supercharged, accelerated environment. So resources that might normally go elsewhere had to be diverted to this digital defense right out of the gate.
Okay, so they've got the digital defense team scrambling. That leads into the travel, right? The geographic blitz. If you can't spend a year wooing voters state by state,
you have to hit the ground running, literally. It meant this absolutely relentless travel schedule. The sources mention it really pushed every